Well, hi everyone, it's Scott and Salem from the Old Curiosity Shop. Now I'm just going to give you a quick peek at Salem. Just a second here. He's not going to let me hold him like this for very long. You can see his coat is actually a beautiful brown color underneath. I don't know if he's going to... Hi Salem. Yes, I know. Okay, old man, back by the fire. There you go. Okay, he's good. As you know, this spring, that cat is going to turn 20. Well, I'm just thankful that I've had him for 20 years, and we'll see. We'll just have to see. But he doesn't have any like health issues. He's just an old cat. Welcome back to the Old Curiosity Shop. Now, there is a reason why I have you in this angle. I am going to do a 3-part series called Depression Glass Extravaganza. 3 parts. Now, I know that the month of January, for those who suffer with mental illness and depression and so forth, as my father did, this can be one of the most difficult months. It's, for many of us, the darkest and coldest month. And sometimes the gloomiest. The holidays are over, and especially now we're all still very much locked down, as we know in many cases. So I wanted to save this beautiful, colorful depression glass to maybe bring a little bit of sparkle and a little bit of color into what is typically a pretty gloomy month. And what I'm going to do today, my goal today, is to identify everything that you see here on the windowsill, tell you who made it, when it was made, and maybe just a little bit about it. That's today's show. Then in part 2, I'm going to talk about references, and I'm going to show you some of my favorite reference guides. A lot of them you're already familiar with. Florence, Malsey, Weatherman, you know those names. But I'll show you some of the books and tell you a little bit about how I research and what are the pitfalls of research when you just sort of take a piece of glass like this and Google it. That's going to be in video 2. And then in video 3, this will be cleared off and it'll be filled a second time. I have a second load of depression glass to show you. And in that one, I might do a little bit more about some of the companies, some of the flaws that you can look for in depression glass so that you can tell the difference between a crack and an inclusion and a straw mark and all that stuff. So a 3-part series on all this beautiful depression glass. I'm not an expert. I make mistakes every day, but I love learning. And I have been fiddling with depression glass since I was a teenager. Now that goes back more than 30 years. And back when I started going to auctions in the early 1980s, still in high school, depression glass was the hottest collectible at that time. It really started catching on in the 1970s with some of the books that were released, mostly Hazel Weatherman and then Florence. But it remained popular all through the 1980s and 90s. Depression glass isn't dead. There are still people who collect depression glass, and a lot of the rare pieces can bring a good deal of money. But if you like color and beautiful American-made glass that you can't find in department stores anymore, this might be a collectible that you're interested in. There's plenty to choose from. There's a lot of it out there. You can mix and match. And wouldn't this look great in these gray dining rooms? Yes, okay. Variety is the spice of life. But we're going to bring some color into this gloomy month of January. Okay, pause, go get yourself a cup of something. I'll be right back.
There's an old curiosity shop. Every once in a while I go by there for the fond recollections that lie there in that old curiosity shop.
So I'm going to put this down over here as not to confuse myself. And let's just go for it, right? We're going to start off with Jubilee by Lancaster. No, I'm leaving that for part 2 because That piece of glass right there, a lot of you are going to look it up and say, it's Jubilee by Lancaster. Take a look at that. Is it or is it not? That's going to be for part 2. So that's a tricky one. We're going to skip that for a minute. We're also going to skip this one. Go and Google this and tell me what you think it is. I'm just going to leave that right there because I have a surprise for you in part 2 on this piece of glass. All right? Got a surprise for you. It may not be what you think it is, so we're going to skip that. All right, let's go to Jeanette. Jeanette of Jeanette, Pennsylvania. They made a pattern here called Iris. Collectors call it Iris and Herringbone. It was made from the 20s into the 70s. You'll see this listed often as carnival glass. But if I went into a major carnival glass convention or collector's meeting and I walked in with this, they would probably throw darts at me. It's not really carnival glass because Jeanette didn't make carnival glass the way Fenton, Dugan, Imperial, Diamond, the way those companies did from 1904 up to the early 20s. It's just an iridized example of depression glass. But you'll sometimes see it listed as carnival glass, but as I said, it's really just iridescent depression glass. That's the picture in Iris and Herringbone. I see the bowls all the time. Here's a picture of the bowls. You'll see these bowls frequently. Sometimes this is painted. The Florentine. I think I've got it in 2 piles. Now the Florentine was made by the Hazel Atlas company. There's Florentine number 1 and there's Florentine number 2. So let me show you the Florentine number 1. I'm actually just going to bring back a cup and saucer. I've got way down there dinner plates, dessert plates, but here's a cup and saucer. It's a beautiful pattern in yellow. And I'm over here by the window, so hopefully you can really see how the pattern shows up. This is a beautiful yellow pattern, Hazel Atlas, Florentine number 2, 1932 to 35. Notice the smooth edge. Yeah? Florentine number 1 is the same pattern. I only have one piece of, I promise I'm not gonna, I only have one piece of Florentine number 1, and this is Florentine number 1. Notice the decorated edge. Same glass, same color, same pattern, but you have this decorated edge, which is very prone to chipping. Yeah. So 1932 to 1934, Florentine. It's just beautiful glass. Remember there was a whole bunch of it at a silent auction and I didn't get it. Somebody got it before I did. Now, the next glass that I want to show you is popular even with mid-century mod folks. And it's made by Anchor Hocking, and it's called Bubble, and it was made from 1934 to 1965. And I love it in sapphire blue. I have a ton of it. I probably have about 50 dinner plates sitting here. There's a whole stack of it here, and there's more way down there. Just to identify it, I'll just show you the cup and saucer. Beautiful sapphire blue color, and you'll often see this in crystal. I've talked to a couple of friends who live in different parts of the country, and they say they find crystal all the time, but never the sapphire blue. Bubble. Got a lot of it. Now this sapphire blue color is the same blue that Anchor Hocking used for their Philby kitchen glass. And I think I do, hold on. I'll be right back. Down here on the floor, I happen to have a Philby patterned pie plate. And we can see the word Fire King on there. So it's the same glass, same color of glass. There's also Philby dinnerware, which is really difficult to find and quite expensive if you can find it. Very popular from 1930 to 1936 manufactured is Macbeth Evans' American Sweetheart. And I have one example of that here to show you. The Macbeth Evans patterns are usually very, very thin. Very thin. It's a beautiful pattern. You got to watch out because this is really prone to chipping. Beautiful piece of glass. You can find this in many colors. You can also find inserts that would fit down into aluminum or stainless steel, chrome sherbet cups. American Sweetheart. And I think I also have, down here on the floor, a large American Sweetheart vegetable serving bowl. As you can see, it's the same pattern. I didn't have room for this up here on the windowsill. See there? Again, very prone to chipping, very thin glass. So if you like American Sweetheart, you can find it, but you really want to make sure that it's not chipped. Now, a glass company you might not be familiar with, the Liberty Glass Works. They made a pattern called American Pioneer from 1931 to 1934. American Pioneer. Now, Liberty, actually, this is not elegant. This doesn't fall into the category of elegant depression glass, but this is nice glass. It's nice and heavy. It's a better quality. This is very nicely finished glass in this American Pioneer pattern. I rarely find it. I don't know if they fire polished their glass or not, but it's very well made. It's very smooth edges. So there might have actually been some fire polishing on these. It's just very well made. Just a little bit of a notch above your standard depression glass. So I've got just some odd pieces. I have a goblet, I guess a sherbet here, or yeah. Here is a creamer in that same pattern. American Pioneer by Liberty Glass Works. Now, Hazel Atlas made a lot of amethyst glass, a lot of it. And here's a pattern that they made, and we can tell from the shape that now we're getting into something a little more modern. So this was actually made into the 1960s, and it's called Moroccan. And you can see, you might see this referred to as Hazelware. Remember, it was the Continental Can Company that acquired the Hazel Atlas Company in the 50s, and then the CCC would be put on the glass. This glass is unmarked, so you're not going to see the typical HA for Hazel Atlas on this glass. A lot of the Hazel Atlas kitchen glass is marked HA, but many of the depression glass pieces are not. So, Moroccan amethyst. I have another pattern here by Hazel Atlas, which I might as well go ahead and show you, because it's also amethyst. And that would be right here. I have a set of 6 cream soup bowls with their liners, or underplates. Now this pattern, also Hazel Atlas, but this is much earlier. This is going to go back into the 30s, and this pattern is called Hairpin by Collectors. I think Hazel Atlas called it Newport. So here are the cream soup bowls and the matching liners with the depression. Notice that depression there is not for a teacup, but it is for this larger cream soup bowl. And these can also be used as a bread and butter plate. Now let's see when this was made. Newport, 1930s. By the way, why are there 2 handles on cream soup bowls? because it was absolutely acceptable to pick up your cream soup bowl, pinkies out of course, and drink the rest of your soup. That's why those handles are there. Now how do I know that? Because Emily Post told me so. While we're talking about Hazel Atlas, let's look at a few more Hazel Atlas items that are unmarked, but no doubt Hazel Atlas. I have 2 small opalescent juice glasses, probably for the breakfast table. No mark, but Hazel, no doubt. And these, wow, I haven't decided. I may actually keep these. I have 6 Atlantic City glasses. Now these would be from the 30s. This color, Hazel Atlas called it Ritz Blue, R-I-T-Z, Ritz Blue. And boy, if you went to Atlantic City in the 1930s, you really were putting on the Ritz. It's not like Atlantic City of today, which is, and I notice pictured on here, one of the hotels we see there is the Claridge Hotel in Atlantic City, which I've stayed in. And they've actually done a lot of work on the Claridge to sort of bring it back to that 1930s Art Deco look. So a wonderful set of 6 of these that would have been in some type of a holder, which I don't have, but I'll find one eventually. The condition on these is fantastic. I'll have to, that might be all that I've got here by Hazel Atlas. Okay, let's move right along and let's go to the Cooperative Flint Company. I'm going to show you something in their line 431, Cooperative Flint. Cooperative Flint. Now this was a bit of a mystery when I found it. I don't find Cooperative Flint very often. They're not as well known as some of the other companies. When I saw this, I knew something was missing. If we look on the inside, there's a ridge here, a little flange that sits out, or a little ridge that pokes out. That obviously tells us that something sat down in there. Well, obviously, I would think some type of a lid. So when I saw it, I said, oh, it's just some kind of a mustard pot or mayonnaise jar, just something that had a lid on the top of it. But after doing some research, I found out that this is actually a flower bowl, and it had an underplate or a liner that it sat on, and it also had a frog, a flower frog, or sometimes called a block, B-L-O-C-K, a flower block, with all the little holes, made of glass, and that would sit on top. So we're missing the plate and the frog. The paint on here is all just applied underneath. There's actually a patent date on it, and the patent date is patented June 24th, 1924. So they patented this particular design. I'll probably never find the underplate or the frog that goes with it, so it's just one of those interesting pieces of depression glass that you'll find. This is Jeanette. We'll do these two. Jeanette made this little 3-leaf clover dish in many colors. You can find it in iridescent. You can find it in clear glass. It shows up in the blue delphite. It also shows up in green uranium. And you don't see a lot of green uranium on this counter here. That seems to be missing. That's because I have a huge collection of green uranium glass that could also fill this counter up just green, and that's packed away in another location. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that yet. Here's an Anchor Hocking vase. This is the jadeite glass, a little Art Deco flower vase. They made many, they made thousands of these. Not too difficult to find. But again, with this, you want to check for chips around the top and on the little deco petals that stick out on the side. Nice little 1940s piece by Anchor Hocking. Now, let's look at some mystery tumblers. I have a set of 6 of these wonderful tumblers. Now, these are iced tea glasses. And they came from either an iced tea set or a water set. I have 6 of them, the other 4 are over there, and they would have come with a big pitcher with the same design and usually with a glass lid on top. I was shocked when I found these. They are paper thin. These are paper thin, almost eggshell thin. Notice there's also a ribbed optic pattern in the glass as well. If you were to Google this and try to find other images like it, you're going to find that almost every one of the better glass companies of the 1920s made tumblers that looked very much like this. Fenton made them, Dunbar, Bartlett Collins, Belmont. So it took a lot of research to identify these, and I found out that these are made by the Imperial Glass Company, and the pattern is called Granada number 136, and you could get 5 ounce, 10 ounce, 13 ounce, or 16 ounce. These are the 16 ounce tumblers, the biggest ones that they made. And just a wonderful color. You'll notice that a lot of the colors that we see here would be considered jewel tones, which were very popular in the 1920s and 30s. Jewel tones. Now let's look at an elegant depression glass pattern. I have 4 yellow plates here, and it's always helpful when something is marked. Heisey is often marked as well as Cambridge. Right in the center is a triangle with a little letter C in it. I'm trying to get you to where you can see that, but there's a utensil mark in the middle of that plate, so it's a little difficult to see. But these are beautiful yellow plates. Some companies would call this topaz, and this is the apple blossom pattern. This is Cambridge's line 3400. And from the 1930s. That's about a 10-inch dinner plate. And when I was going through my reference books, and remember I'm going to talk about my reference books in part 2, back in 1999, these plates were valued at that time at about $65 per dinner plate. Of course, that's not the value of them now. Which is another reason why, if you like depression glass, it's a good time to be buying now because it's very affordable. You'll notice with Cambridge, because it's an elegant pattern, we see this beautiful etching. The glass is fire polished, and you're not going to get mold lines, you're not going to get seams or rough edges. So this is the type of glass that was not given away generally at movie theaters and automobile garages and whatnot, but purchased in better department stores. We've talked about that many times. Let's show you another really beautiful piece of depression glass. That is also by one of the elegant makers. Wonderful pink compote here, about 4 inches tall. This is made by Cambridge, and the pattern is called Clio. Look at the beautiful etching of that Cambridge Clio piece. It's a 4-inch tall compote, and this was made in the 1930s. 1930s. That's a beautiful piece of glass. Can you see it? You don't need to see me. I want you to see this. Wow. And the sun is starting to come out here, so it's really showing up better. And while we're sticking with the elegance, let's see another beautiful piece of glass. This pattern is called June, J-U-N-E, like the month. And this is by Falstoria. It's a beautiful blue color. And Falstoria called this blue, Blue Azure. Yeah, this is 1928 to 1944, and I think this was one of their June is one of the very popular patterns from Falstoria. Just a small little serving plate there. I love the color on that. Very, very delicate color. All right, now let me quickly go through a couple generic things that you're pretty well familiar with. Peach Luster by Anchor Hocking, real popular in the 1950s. That's a punch cup. No punch bowl, but there's the cup. One of the few pieces of uranium glass I have here to show you is just a green uranium creamer. Not really sure who made that one, but it's going to definitely fluoresce under a black light. Okay, that's really should be in my kitchenware show, but okay. And then this is Anchor Hocking's Bubble again. Little candy dish there, if you will. This is another piece in ruby red made by Hocking. Yes, I always forget this one. It's called Windsor by Anchor Hocking, made in the 1940s in their ruby red. So I just have one little juice glass there. This glass here is probably Cambridge. You can see the wonderful etching on it. And then this glass was sent to Farber Brothers in Brooklyn, and they would outfit it in these little rims and baskets. So this is attached to the glass. We can see very nicely made. But I think it was Cambridge who supplied most of the elegant depression glass for Farber Brothers, who would outfit the glass with the chrome. Here are a few pieces that I haven't identified yet because I need to dig around a little bit more. A wonderful elegant creamer and sugar, crystal and black. Now again, if I go and look this up on the net, I'm going to find probably 20 examples of creamers and sugars that are almost this exact same shape, because companies copied each other. And a lot of these companies are in Western Pennsylvania, Ohio, and West Virginia, right in a 90-mile radius. And what happened? People moved around. This person would leave Hazel Atlas and go over to Westmoreland, and then they'd leave Westmoreland and go over to Fenton, and so forth. There was a lot of imitation that was going on between companies, because this was a business to make money during the Depression, right? So they're copying each other. Those are really nice. Then I've got 4 little tiny etched sherbet glasses here in pink. I haven't necessarily attributed these to any particular maker. Got 4 of those. And then from 1931 to 1934, we have the Princess pattern, and these are coasters. They're not terribly difficult to find now with the internet. They used to be very hard to find. What did I tell you, Apple Blossom? Wait a minute. No, that's Cambridge. Princess by Anchor Hocking. Early 30s. Princess pattern. Coasters. Sandwich, we're pretty much familiar with Anchor Hocking's Sandwich in forest green. Okay, as usual, I go blah, 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 which means what I thought was going to be a 3-part series might end up being a 4 or a 5-part series, because I didn't get through everything. But we're just about flirting with 30 minutes on this video. So I'm going to cut it off right here and come back and film part 2 and identify the rest of this glass. Once again, none of it is listed yet in the old Curiosity Shop. I'll tell you when it all goes live, and none of it is listed yet. It's going to take me a while to get everything photographed and listed in the old Curiosity Shop, but I'll be sure to let you know when it's available in case you see anything here you're interested in. What was the piece that you liked the best? Did any of this bring back memories of glass that maybe your grandparents had when you were little? I'd love to hear that in the comments below. Okay, I don't know when part 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are coming out, but they are, so come back and join me in the old Curiosity Shop again real soon. I'm Scott saying thanks for watching, and so long for now.